Fear is something that can and will control your life if you let it. Wait, did I just say let it? What I'm trying to get across here is that there are choices in this matter, and we're gonna unpack more. Stay tuned.
I'm the CEO, it's Mega Chop, you already know.
In my last video, we dove into fear and talked about how it can impact your life in small ways, how it can impact your life in large ways, potentially even lifelong lasting impacts. If you didn't catch that video, do me a favor, click the link below. That way we can get you caught up on fear as a whole. And in this video, we're gonna dive into ways that we can approach fear to make it a decision instead of a reaction. If you want to talk more about anything that we discuss in this video, please join me live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at Twitch. You can find me at twitch.tv/megachopceo. That link is down below as well. Last week, I left you with some reflecting to do. We talked about how fear can impact us based upon direction. It may prevent us from walking through a doorway because there's a spider there, or it may prevent us from having certain conversations because we're afraid of where it could head. There are a lot of different impacts that it can have on our life, so it's important that we take a look at steps that we can take to minimize or change how it impacts our day-to-day. I talked about my fear of confrontation and how it led me to interact with people in different ways, but ultimately it formed a false foundation for relationships, especially once we made it to that point of potential confrontation, because I would agree to do things that I didn't want to do or agree to ideals that I didn't hold myself, and I eventually had to conform to some of those, becoming somebody that I really wasn't. Now I'm in a much better spot, and I'm most certainly myself at this point. So we're going to look at what it takes to walk that journey, because there are steps that you can take yourself that will help you move away from responding in a way of fear and be able to respond in a way that is true and genuine to yourself. And I look forward to walking through the steps that I took. I took them in more than just the fear of confrontation. I took them in the fear of disappointing people, in the fear of rejection, the fear of change, the fear of heights. Some of these I'm much further along than I am in other areas. It definitely has helped me progress in all areas. So my fear of confrontation, really, I didn't like the feeling of those raised, elevated emotions. I am a people pleaser by nature, and I felt like if I'm making them upset or we have a disagreement that's going in direct opposition to that, which I held higher than confrontation. So I believed that I was doing a good thing by avoiding confrontation, that I was helping relationships. I didn't see the damage that it was causing. And it wasn't until I was in retail management and I read a book called Crucial Conversations, which is an incredible book. I'm going to drop the link below for Amazon. That way, if you want, you can pick it up for yourself. And this book helped me to understand that having these crucial conversations actually was loving. It was beneficial for the relationships, that you could have these crucial conversations, and not only were they not negative, they were very positive for the relationship. You could walk away from one of these conversations and the person that you had that with could feel even better about themselves, even better about their life, even better about what they're doing at work. Even if you had to have a conversation of, hey, you need to stop being late, or you could get fired. You can have that in a way that encourages and builds somebody up as they walk out of that conversation. So I have literally spent the last 12 years working on crucial conversations since I've read this book, and it has definitely been a journey. I haven't been great to start with. I've definitely needed a lot of practice. That's something that I would encourage you to do. I'm very fortunate that my wife Stacy would practice a lot with me on conversations I would need to have with people at work, I would need to have with people at home. So this was a skill base that was not just important for me to apply at work. It was actually even more important for me to apply at home with friends and family, because those are the core relationships that we come back to at the end of the day. Our work relationships may change, so it was important foundationally for all aspects of life that I improved in this area. And Stacy was a phenomenal role model and still is in having crucial conversations. She's not afraid to have any conversation with anybody. So I absolutely looked up to her on this journey as a mentor, to watch what she did, to study how she responded and acted in these different situations, because where I was like, yeah, peace, I'm out, she was like, okay, let's go. Like, let's do this. Let's have this conversation. Let's get this figured out and we'll move on. I was a fan of that. And so I really watched and studied what she did. So I would say a mentor is important to have on this journey. And the thing to keep in mind with a mentor is we're not meant to replicate everything that they do. It's more of an emulation. Take what they do, study what it is, those pieces, break it apart, and understand how can you apply that with your individualness, because that approach works for her. But my approach when I have those similar conversations looks much different now when I talk with people, and it could be the exact same scenario. You take the same scenario, she has a different approach, I have a different approach, but we make it to the same spot in our own way because it's unique and authentic to ourselves, which is the most important piece of all of this. You don't want to force yourself into an area where you're responding the way someone else would that's unnatural to you, because that will definitely have results that you don't want. Now, obviously, it makes it way easier to face our fears when we're able to prepare for them in advance. So we can prepare, like I talked about, and practice with people the conversation, the scenarios. Hey, I think this person could respond one of these 2 or 3 ways. Can you walk that through with me and respond in that way when I try and deliver this news? So we can practice that out in that way, which I'm a personal fan of doing to help me get prepared and mentally where I need to be in those conversations. The other ones that are more difficult are the ones that pop up that we're not expecting, that are spur of the moment, and we're instantly put into a situation where we need to face our fears. So what can we do to respond in those ways when we're not ready? Well, first of all, I want to reassure you, there are going to be plenty of learnings along the way. If you actually reference my video a few back, I'll drop the link here. It says failure right across the front. We picked apart failure. I'm not going to super dive into there, but in this case, it's not failure if you have hiccups or missteps. Those are learnings along the journey of trying to understand, how do we respond? How do we act in a healthy way towards one another, especially when fear comes into that mix? It can become increasingly difficult. The important thing to remember on this journey is that we acknowledge that, hey, there's something that's not where we want it to be, and we need to make a change to get there. And we're taking action to get there. That's the most important part and the thing that we need to focus on as we do this. So here's a hypothetical situation to talk through. We just had a disagreement with our friend. We know it and they don't. They want to go to a hockey game this weekend, and they don't know that actually our skin breaks out because it's sensitive to the cold, so we get hives in a cold arena. And I know that if I go along in that scenario, I'm gonna be bitter because I'm gonna be uncomfortable, I'm gonna be miserable, I'm not even gonna wanna be there. I'll probably be short with them, so I'm gonna dread my week leading up to going. I'm going to be miserable while I'm there, and I'm going to be miserable for the week after because I was short with my friend. Why? Because I responded out of fear. I didn't want to interject. They were so excited. I didn't want to crush their dreams and cause a conflict. Now, we recognize this after the fact. We can go on and continue, like I said, or we can reboot, give them a call, meet up with them face to face and say, hey, We can say, hey, you were so excited to go to the hockey game this weekend, and so was I because of your excitement, but I was afraid to crush your dreams, or I was afraid of making you upset if I said that it wouldn't work out for me to go because my skin breaks out when I'm in a cold environment. Would it work for me to have you over at my house? We'll watch a hockey game and I'll make you your favorite meal. So now you've taken that fear. You've had time before you had this conversation to practice. So it took that real life, hey, here it comes at me situation. You had some time to practice and flip it and talk with them. I feel like that's a very reasonable compromise for the scenario and would help to present that alternate option. I doubt that they're going to be angry. I bet they would love to just be able to hang out with you and still take in the hockey game and have amazing food. So it's important to acknowledge those scenarios, and sometimes we may miss the opportunity in the moment to have that conversation, but we can follow up later. Then the other piece of that is to assess what happened. So what was it in that conversation that took place that made us sit back and be like, I really don't want to say what I feel. In that scenario, it was obvious. It was their excitement. We didn't want to crush that. So we can look at that and say, okay, in the future, when I have a scenario like that and somebody's excited, next time when I get to that point, I'm going to stop and think for a second. Do I just want to respond and say, okay, sounds good? Or do I want to take a moment and respond and say, hey, can we talk this through? Can we think about it a little bit? Whatever the case may be, and this really applies to many, if not all, the scenarios that we're going to walk through with fear. Basically, we walk ourselves back through the process of what led us to the point of just responding in fear. So here it's thinking through it in conversations. This could also be physical actions that we take. If we encounter a spider and we have a fear of spiders, what do? Okay, well, I realize that the second I see a spider, I freak out. What causes that freak out? What's the thought pattern? I'm afraid that they're going to bite me, or I'm afraid that they're going to kill me. Well, it's not a venomous spider, so is it really that much of a risk? No, I could literally squish it with my shoe in a second and be done with it. Is it rational to be that afraid of the spider and going through it and just walking back through? And I know talking through fears like this makes them seem easier than it is. And I'm not trying to trivialize our fears because they are very real and they're difficult to walk through, but that's why we're going through this, to help you understand what steps you can take to start to do it. And it may take days, weeks, months, years to overcome and move past these different areas. But I've applied these even to my fear of heights, which is incredibly dramatic. And I am way better than I've ever been with my fear of heights in overcoming and doing more and standing on the edge of cliffs and not absolutely freaking out. So it works for mental processes, it works for physical processes. Really, ultimately, in the end, it comes back to mental. It's something that we've learned, that we've got a set pattern in place, and we need to work on backing that up and retracing our mental steps that brought us there and relearning how to process that information for the future. And if you would like to talk with me about any of this information, any of my fears live, you can catch me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings over on Twitch at twitch.tv/megachopceo. I would love to talk with you there. Until next time, smash that subscribe, click that thumbs up, and dabble with that bell for notifications. Peace!